On the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. It's just what I think the deep state sees when they see what's happening, when they're looking out at what's going on, the way this Q movement's moving, the way people are waking up, the way their stories aren't sticking anymore, the way they're not able to get the traction they once were. This is a picture of a sandstorm, and this is Arizona, by the way, so it's, U.S., it's not necessarily somewhere else. But you can just see this enveloping huge wave, this tsunami, this giant storm that's coming upon them. Now, of course, like I show in my thumbnail, some people see that as oh no, the storm is coming, while others see it as an opportunity or see it for what it is. The show is happening. We're winning this battle. We're winning the public opinion. Now, the loud noises, the 2%, that, Flynn talked about this recently, how the 2% of society are threatening to mess it up for the other 98%, and that we need to be smart and stop listening to people. And if you think about all the crazy that's going on out there, that seems to be kind of the direction that they're heading. There's this weird cancel culture is obviously happening, but on top of that, we've got situations where they're trying to keep Biden from being able to even debate Trump. There's discussion of how they can ramp this virus up, make it even more scary. So when that happens, we'll actually want to vote by mail instead of actually going into a voting center. That's coming. All of these things are being talked about way before they actually go live with it, which is problematic. Because they're calling us conspiracy theories right now, but in 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 10 weeks, when they finally initiate this push. And all of a sudden, by the way, they're going to have all these ballots just magically ready. Oh, we were prepared just in case. And I think at that point, it's going to be funny. We're going to hear something like, hey, so we've got this new little watermark that we're putting on the ballots. Want to make sure that they're all legit. So make sure that those are the ballots you're using. Here's the ones that we've printed for you. We don't necessarily want your state ballots to necessarily go out because they're not correct. It's okay. We've got some for you. We printed them in advance, knowing that you were going to do what you did. So again, there's a huge movement right now of this move, counter move. But the moves are easy to start. I mean, really, it's starting to become very obvious what the deep state's going to do next. And they do it. Move, counter move. And it's well, I see from 100 million miles away this thing you're going to do. Okay, I'm ready for it. I got ready for it a long time ago. I even bought stuff on layaway, got a discount on it. Yeah, no, I had plenty of time to plan. And here we are. And there's some really funny stories that are kind of jumping around right now. One is Judge Sullivan. It's kind of interesting. So, more deep state lawlessness. This is on Stillness of the Storm. It's a site I love. I've been following these guys for years. Judge Sullivan appeals order to dismiss Flynn case. Judge Sullivan, the judge, he's appealing the order to dismiss the case by the prosecutor. Last time I looked, I thought that was kind of how law worked. Usually the judge is just there to make sure everything's fair. And when the prosecutor's like, yeah, we drop our case, the judge's like, okay, I'm going to go home and have a cheeseburger. Or maybe a mango salad or some sort of thing like that. Who knows? You might be really into the healthy stuff. Well, apparently, Judge Emmett Sullivan filed an appeal Thursday of the 2-1 writ of mandamus ruling last month by the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia to dismiss the Justice Department criminal case against former Trump National Security Advisor Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, U.S. Army retired. Sullivan's asking for an en banc hearing by the entire 11 judges on the appeals court. They really want to get this guy. So Catherine Herridge doing some amazing work, as always. It is the district court job, or is the district court's job to consider and rule on pending motions, even ones that seem straightforward. This court, if called upon, reviews those decisions. It does not preempt them. This case satisfies requirements of Rule 35 and the en banc review should be granted. So again, a lot of stuff. This panel's decision threatens to turn ordinary judicial prowess. So she says it up here. Again, it's very interesting. Actually, she says it. The panel's decision threatens to turn ordinary judicial process upside down. It is the district court's job to consider and rule on pending motions, even ones that seem straightforward. This court is called upon reviews those decisions. It does not preempt them. It's a very powerful statement. And yet, here we are questioning this. This is insanity. This is insanity. Again, this is this giant storm that's coming. We see it coming. They're like, oh no. And we're like, oh, finally. And yet, this is the obvious stuff that they're doing. And not to be totally disappointed, we have some more interesting stories. Interestingly, New York City's mayor, who, if anybody is pretty much guaranteed not to get elected again, I would say he's got to be on that list. This guy's got doof written all over his forehead. He is definitely got some problems. We'll say that much. Cuomo, on the other hand, I don't know. That guy talks really well. I'm kind of impressed with him. Who knows? He might be tied in with the mafia or something, for all I know. But this guy, de Blasio, this guy's a tard. So that being said, he's telling Wolf Blitzer that he is banning all large gatherings in New York City, except, everything. Everything's bad. It's the virus, people. It's the bad. Everything. Got to ban them all. No, except all these people over here that are painting stuff in the streets, catching things on fire, shooting people, breaking glass, causing mayhem. Now, yes, peaceful protesters are also a part of that, so long as they're peacefully protesting Black Lives Matter, which, yes, they do, for sure. But that being said, for that to be the only thing that people are able to do, for anybody, that's something that you have to question. Again, obvious stuff is happening right now. It's like if you wanted to write a book on how could we get the left to sabotage their own self so people on the left would start to wake up to all the crazy shizzle that's going on, I don't think I could have made it better. In hindsight, I don't think I could have made it better. It's impressive how blatant it is right now. Let's just see what this wonderful fella has to say.
And it means things like parades, things that here in the city can mean not just thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. It's just not time for that now.
What about protests? If people want to march down Fifth Avenue, are they going to be allowed to do so?
Look, Wolf, this is always an area of real sensitivity. If you're just talking about health, we would always say, hey, folks, stay home if you can. But we understand at this moment in history, people are talking about the need for historic changes. I mean, today in New York City, recognizing the power and the meaning of the message Black Lives Matter, which we did in front of Trump Tower today, this is a historic moment of change. We have to respect that, but also say to people, the kinds of gatherings we're used to, the parades, the fairs, we just can't have that while we're focusing on health right now.
What about the U.S. Open? I'm curious.
Who cares about the U.S. Open right now? I mean, we do, of course. And actually, I've got family that works for the fifth major, if you will, out there in the Indio area. But that being said, obviously, double standard, hugely so. It's just amazing how the entire game is played. And yes, they do put their little flowery talk on it, but most people look at it and go, wait. So I can't gather with my friends. I can't go to a bar where there's not that many people. I can't go to my friend's house and have a barbecue. I can't go to a funeral. Can't go to a wedding. Can't really do anything. Except protest. Except I can only do it if I'm protesting for a specific protest. Now, if you think about that, now, I don't know if you guys knew, they painted in front of Trump Tower in New York, which Trump's apparently furious about. And he's saying all the people at all the rich, fancy places there are pissed off. Now, they might be. I mean, I'm sure they are, in fact. But whatever the case is, But he's out there, they're painting this in front of Trump's building to make a point to Trump, apparently. But what, again, is interesting is, one, this is a political movement. It is. It's tied to the Act Blue, so there's definitely a political side to this, period. There is. Yes, I think the primary purpose and how this started was around the Black Lives Matter movement. I saw a very cool video of Will Smith and another lovely lady, and they were really talking about it. I think it was probably the first time where I kind of think I sort of understand why they're so angry and what this really is about. But unfortunately, it's been taken over or co-opted by a bad group, this Antifa group or whatever, that has actually turned this thing into bad mojo. And then on top of that, it's created this other side that sort of reacted and said, all lives matter, all black lives matter, all purple people matter. Like, it's gone into this whole other hyperbolic kind of way that's also causing problems. So again, they've taken something that was actually beautiful and pure, really, at least the way I understand it now, and they've managed to change it into something that's nasty, dirty, and causing death, harm, and destruction. So not cool. But again, blatant, right in front of you. Now this one's the funny one, and I'm doing this a little bit in jest, a little, but the point is, so Ghislaine, I don't know how to say her name. I don't really want to say it right. But Ghislaine Maxwell is made to wear paper clothes. Paper clothes, people. Paper clothes. Clothes made of paper. Now, of course, it's still probably like Gucci and Ralph Lauren paper clothes. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure she's not just wearing like the Washington Post. I mean, she's got class, people. Come on now. But obviously afraid that she's going to kill herself. Now, of course, everybody who's anybody figures Epstein was killed. Hung himself. So why would this not happen with her? Now, of course, I almost feel like they're baiting it to a degree. Now, I think it would be weird, and being the bait, as it's been said in numerous movies where they kind of make fun of this adage, but being the bait, it usually doesn't work out really well for the bait. The bait kind of gets eaten. But you catch something, so it's great if you're the one at the other end. So again, Ghislaine Maxwell in her paper clothes, Ralph Lauren paper clothes, I'm sure. Very, very, very nice. But, yes. And so again, putting the obvious attention on the fact that, yeah, she's a marked woman, but hey, guess what? We're putting in her papers, so, we're doing everything we can to make sure that she doesn't kill herself like Epstein did, even though everybody knows Epstein didn't kill himself. Way too many coincidences around that. So again, this one's probably a little more on the edge of obvious, but this is another one of those things that people are starting to wake up to, the duh factor. So there's a lot going on right now. The storm is coming. The storm is upon them. The storm is obvious. They're freaking out. But the quiet of Q right now, the quiet of nothing really being talked about yet. Again, a lot of people hate it. I love it. Because so many wild and crazy things start to happen when Q doesn't talk. And people have to start making stuff up. And people have to start talking about other things. And people have to be mindful of all the things that Q has said in the past. It becomes an interesting time of reflection and also a time to kind of push people's behaviors into interesting directions. And a lot of people suggest that that's what was going on with Ghislaine Maxwell. They were watching her right after they got Epstein. They already talked to her. She was already on the dole, if you will. And they said, all right, we're going to let you sit out there. We're going to basically monitor every friggin' device you have under the sun. Hey, here's a drop phone that you can give people and make it seem like you're being all sneaky with your GMAX name, because no one's going to figure that out. But they did, apparently. The funny thing is that so many people reached out to her during this time that the feds figured out a lot of information. Again, we've got investigations wrapping up, should be done by the end of summer. All this stuff's building up to what's coming for the election. The only thing the Dems can do at this point, really the deep state, not the Dems, but the deep state can do at this point is, of course, continue the fear, continue to try to incite violence and other pandemonium or panic amongst people. But most importantly, they've got to figure out how can we get this COVID to come in again? How can we get a second virus to come in? How can we get the pandemic thing to come back? It was working for us, people. It was working for us. But now people are like, I'm tired of it. I don't see it happening. The death numbers do not add up with what you said we should expect. The ones that you're showing us on the CDC aren't as high as that. And there's some questions around, frankly, those numbers. Even Dr. Birx said she felt the numbers were overstated by 25%. They never brought those numbers down, did they? They haven't. If you weren't sure, they haven't. They have not been brought down 25%. Dr. Birx, one of the two accepted experts, is the one that's told us this information. So again, It's funny how so many things have changed. And again, tomorrow they're going to tell us something different. Initially, Fauci told us that masks were bad because he didn't want to run out of masks for other people. And now he's like, you shouldn't go anywhere without a mask. You should even sleep with a mask because you might meet someone with COVID in a dream and then you'll get it on you. But if you have a mask in your dream, you're fine. That's all you got to do. Again, ridiculous. Pay attention to how things are playing out. Pay attention to this giant storm that's coming in and how people are starting to panic and cover and freak out. You're going to see it play out. You're going to see it play out in real time. I truly am expecting next week to be an interesting week. Where we go one, we go all. It's on the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle.